Hi everyone. In my last video talking about how to get good color by setting the proper white balance, I gave a really quick look at this kitchen studio that we've set up here. Today I thought I'd give a more in-depth tour of the space and talk about how we shoot the cooking videos here. And here it is. This is actually a small one-bedroom apartment that we're renting here in the heart of Tokyo. This living room, kitchen, dining space is 29 square meters. That's just about 312 square feet. And as you can see here, we've set it up as a studio where we can do cooking videos. It's my wife's cooking school that she does online lessons for. This is the actual kitchen area here. Over here, of course, you've got the sink, and this is a microwave oven slash convection oven. This is actually where you would normally have a refrigerator, but we wanted more counter space in the back and a much bigger refrigerator. So we've got that one here, and I've turned this one into a little nook for this oven. Over here, we've got a counter. These are just IKEA cabinets down here, where we've got things like lots of bowls, cooking scales, various forks, knives, spoons, utensils down here. And this countertop, we were actually looking for a marble or a man-made marble countertop, but we really couldn't find anyone who would make it for us. So what I ended up doing is just going to the hardware store and buying a little, I guess you could say this is a 1 centimeter, almost like a half an inch piece of plywood that I covered with this stick-on sheet that just looks like marble. I thought it would be a very temporary solution, but it's held up pretty well over the past year, quite a bit of abuse, and it still looks okay, so we're still using it. As you can see here, we've got our cutting board and knife. We do most of the cooking on this little gas stove here. We've got another stove in the back here that sorry, I've got my iPad here. We actually don't use this one too much because the lighting back here is not so good, but we use it when we need a little more power. And these cutting boards and the utensils and the pots back here are just for decoration. Now, you can't shoot any videos without lights, so I wanted to talk about what we've done here for the lighting. To be honest, most of this is really a mishmash of different pieces that I either bought on sale, I picked up some that were used, and I've kind of accumulated them over the years, and it works. I'll talk a little bit about what I would do differently with the studio later if I could, and the lighting is a big part of that. But up here, anyway, I've got this Light Mons. I think this might be by Godox. It's a 200 watt bicolor light. So that means that it can go between a very white, bluish white, and a very yellowish incandescent kind of look. The whole idea here is that we wanted to replicate daylight. It's actually nighttime here, but with all the lights on, we really wanted to make it look like you're in someone's kitchen and it's very brightly lit daylight scene. So that is almost on full power, and it's going into this very narrow soft box up here. The reason I had to keep it narrow and up high is actually this backsplash here, which is very reflective, and you can see how it's reflecting all the different lights in the back there. So I had to be very, very careful about positioning that light. Anyway, that's our main key light. As you can see here, that kind of replicates, say, light coming in from a window. Over here, I've got a cheap LED panel that I just used to cast some light on this back wall and on this little fake plant here. On top of the refrigerator, I've got another cheap COB light that I picked up. I think this one is just 100 watt, very, very inexpensive one that I could put on here. And this is more like a rim light for the side of the face. Works pretty well. I've actually only got this on 1% power because it would be too bright otherwise. On this side, this is more like a fill light here. And this is an old Aperture Tri-8C. It's another bicolor light. I went with all bicolor lights here to try to give it a bit of a warmish color tone. And this one is just an LED panel that's going into its softbox there to give a little bit of fill light on the shadow side. And for a bit of a hair light up here, we've got these tube LED lights that I picked up on Amazon. They were really cheap, but they give a warm white glow here. Very, very subtle for the hair lighting. And then under the cupboards down here, these are just IKEA under countertop lights that I put in there. And that's pretty much it for lighting. Now, talking about sound, I usually use these Rode NT5 small diaphragm condenser microphones here. I've got one here. This is the main mic that picks up the cook, the talent, when she is speaking, or she or he is speaking. And I've got another one here positioned a little bit further back just in case. As you can see, the XLR cords are color coded. One is red and one is black. That's just to help me keep it straight as it comes into the camera here, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I also have one more microphone in the back here that I can pull down if necessary. This is a cheap Samson CO2 microphone. Just plug it in when I need it. And this is used to catch, for example, sounds of the microwave oven. Sometimes we pull it out and have to do a little bit of mixing there. Or also it's useful for catching sink sounds, or sometimes I can swing it over here and catch sounds of cooking at this stove in the back here. Okay, now talking about the kind of fun stuff, the cameras. So over here, this is my main, I guess you could say, A cam. I use Lumix. I just started using the GH1 when it first came out, and I've stuck with Lumix all the way since then. Now I've kind of migrated over to their full frame cameras. So this is a Lumix S5 2X with a 50mm f1.8 lens on it. And it's got an Elgato teleprompter here in the front that we use for scripts and things like that. I sometimes have it powered off a V-mount battery, but as you can see today, there's no battery. I've just got it powered by the AC adapter going into the dummy battery down there. Anyway, that's the A cam. The B cam is over here. This is my new Lumix GH7. I just picked this up recently. I did a video on that a little while ago about why I upgraded from the GH5. It's got the XLR2 adapter on here that I use with the Rode microphones in the back there. The nice thing is that it gives me 32-bit float on the recording. And I've been using it now for just over a month, and I've done a whole bunch of cooking videos, and it has saved me a number of times when the audio just kind of gets out of control because I can't keep my hands on that and monitor it. So the 32-bit float option there is really, really nice for pulling the audio down when necessary or boosting it when necessary. And I've got the 12 to 35mm lens. That's usually on its widest setting there, the f2.8 lens. And that's my B cam. It kind of gives me the overall shot of the kitchen. Here, let me I've got a monitoring station before I go back to the cameras here. So you can see all my cameras, well, 3 of the cameras are going into this ATEM Mini down here. And I've got an old 27-inch computer monitor that I can use to keep an eye on what's going on. This one here is the A-cam. It's kind of like the face-to-face shot, usually when the chef is talking to the students and explaining something. This one here is the wider shot that kind of is used to talk about, or explain while she is doing something. One of the interesting things here, let me zoom in here on this one. One of the really nice things about using the GH7 for this shot is I actually use the open gate function here. And as you can see, the framing is a little bit odd because I've got all the microphones at the top here. There's a lot of kind of what you would say wasted space at the top. And I've got a little bit of cutoff here at the bottom on the cutting board and stuff. So the reason for that is if you tilt the camera down, let me try to do that here with one hand. Tilting the camera down, here we go. Oh, no, we don't. Okay. If I tilt the camera down here to show more of the countertop, what happens is the refrigerator in the back here and the cutting board and everything, you've got this perspective distortion. So the lines in the shot start to go diagonal. And I just found it didn't really look very good. So what I started to do is actually tilt the camera back up to try to keep the verticals a little bit more vertical. It's something that architecture photographers would often do with shift lenses. But what I'm doing here is I'm just keeping the camera almost more perpendicular to the refrigerator and the wall there. And I'm just cropping in on, say, the bottom 2/3 or so of the frame to get the shot that I want and keep the verticals a lot more vertical. It's kind of one of the nice things about having the open gate full frame of the sensor there. It gives you a little bit of editing flexibility. Okay, a couple more cameras to show you here. I gave a really quick glimpse of it in the last video. Here is an old Lumix GX85. Here in Japan, it's actually called the GX7 Mark II. And I've got a 20mm f1.7 lens on it. That gives me the overhead shot of what's going on with the counter, on the countertop. Here, let me pull that up here. Here we go. So that you can see, directly overhead what the chef is doing. Go back to multi-view here. And one more camera. This is, down here, is my second S5 IIX. Let me pull it up here on the countertop so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so I've got a really big 10-inch monitor on this because I need it for better focusing. My eyesight's not that good anymore. Here's the camera. I've got it on this really very, very basic setup here. This is just an Arca clamp with one 15mm rod, only on one side. And I've got this small rig follow focus unit here. And this I use for B-roll when I take shots from the side of hand close-ups and things like that. It's a very nice compact setup with a really big monitor so I can see what I'm doing with my focus. Really happy with that setup. And I added, by the way, I've got this Peak Design clutch hand strap here to just kind of help me get better balance on this side of the camera. I wanted to keep this setup as very minimal as possible because I'm usually holding it for quite a while. Okay, a little bit more here. We've got the, well, there's the teleprompter again up there. Got the Elgato foot pedal down there. And over here is a 32-inch TV that we use for keeping the recipe on the screen because it's kind of hard to memorize all of the different ingredients and amounts. So that the chef has a little bit of a prompter there for recipe amounts and things like that. And over here in the back of the studio, we've got storage racks for all the different kinds of things that we need to use in different cooking videos. We've got a whole bunch of different wooden cutting boards that we use, some for actual cutting, some are mainly for presentation of food. We like to do the kind of like a grazing board style of presentation a lot. Got a toaster oven here, various salt and pepper things down there. We've got a nice stand mixer over here. And that's pretty much it. Oh, of course, a stepping stool to get up to the camera up there. But that's the kitchen. Oh, by the way, here's a MacBook that I use to feed the recipe into the TV over here. Oh, and one more. This is a light stand that I've put a fluid head on top of that I use for some videos where I want a very front-facing camera. Usually, though, we have it off to the side here, mainly because I didn't want to do this like an actual, this is the teacher giving you the instructions on how to cook. It's more of a casual, friendly style, like you're in a friend's kitchen and you're cooking together and you're just talking about the food and cooking and your love of eating good food together. So that's the style that we are going for here. One other thing is because we're in the heart of Tokyo, we've got a lot of sound pollution around here. So you can see there's a window back here, but if it's got some kind of a block barrier on it, I guess you could say. This is actually some soundproofing that I've put in. And what I did was I bought this really heavy vinyl sound proofing. It doesn't necessarily block all sound, but it was kind of the best I could do without doing some serious renovation here. And we're only renting, so I didn't want to like destroy the place. Anyway, I've got this really thick soundproofing vinyl sheets that come in roughly a little bit more than 1 foot by 1 foot or 30 centimeter by 30 centimeter square pieces that I cut. And I've mounted them on these plastic sheets here and then attached them to the windows by just some very strong tape that I can pull off cleanly though. And that gives me a fair amount of soundproofing. I've already got, I also got a little bit of the same stuff up here on this vent because I had sound coming in there. But as you can see, there's no real sound treatment like foam egg carton types of padding on the ceilings or anything here. So to be honest, I do get quite a bit of sound reflection. That's why I've tried to keep the microphones as close to the talent as possible. As you could see from the camera shots, they actually get into the frame, but I've got them to the point where they're just barely outside of the usable frame, so I usually crop them out in post-production. It's one of these days, maybe I'll put some more sound treatment on the ceiling here especially, but we've got a lot of hard reflective surfaces anyway, like this countertop that I can't really do a whole lot about, so I just kind of live with it for now. And one last area that I wanted to show you before I call it a day on this video. In the back here, we've got a little bit of a photo setup, and this is where we take photos of the food after it's been prepared and use it for things like the thumbnails. In the back here, I've got a 300 watt Falcon Eyes COB light that I bought used a while back. It does pretty well. It's going into a big scrim here that kind of replicates, again, the look. We're going for daylight. It's more like we like to use side lighting or backlighting a lot. It gives a nice 3D look to the food. Down here, I've got a couple of sawhorses that I bought on Amazon. This is just a reflector dish that I can put around the lens to block reflections when I'm shooting inside of the oven. And we've got these photo backdrop sheets here that I also bought off of Amazon. If anyone's really interested in any of this stuff, I'll just put links into the description. Maybe if you're looking for these kinds of things, hopefully that'll help. Anyway, we use these quite a bit. They're double-sided. They give a lot of variety in different backgrounds that you can shoot. There's a bar here that I can clamp these sheets onto, give a different background. Up here, I've got a softbox. This is just an LED light bulb going into a very inexpensive softbox. And here we've got a ball head that I can, put a camera up there for direct overhead shots. We also can shoot tethered to this Mac over here. So that's it. Now, the last thing is, what would I do differently? So my wife and I have been shooting cooking videos in this kitchen for over a year and a half now for her online cooking school. It served us pretty well. We've done quite a few different recipes and had generally good results. It's been a learning experience. It's evolved a little bit over that time, but we haven't changed it a huge amount since we first set it up, although that doesn't mean it's perfect. The biggest and most important thing that I would really like to change at some point in the future is replacing these different lights that I have. Like I mentioned, this was a real budget studio when we first set it up. We were really strapped for cash. It was in the middle of the pandemic, and we just wanted to get something going as quickly and cheaply as possible. So I kind of scrounged around and salvaged different pieces of equipment or things that I could get on sale. And what we ended up here is a real mishmash of different pieces of equipment. Now that I've been doing it a little bit and looking into other things and kind of thinking about upgrading, what I would really love to do in the future is go with all aperture Amaran lights, mainly because one, you get the integration with their app where you can control everything from your phone. And two, you should get, or I believe you would get much better color accuracy across all of the different lights. As you can see here, this is an old aperture light, and these are just cheap Amazon lights, and these are the IKEA, as in Japan we call it IKEA, under the cabinet lights here, and they all have different color temperatures. So I talked about it in the video about setting white balance, and because I actually set the white balance, it's not really a problem. But it does mean that, for example, the hair light has a different color tone from the fill light that's in the back here, and even from the rim light that's over here, and the main key light that's up here. While I'm compensating for it through the white balance and any tweaks that I have to make in post-production, because all the lights are completely disjointed, they all give a bit of a different look. They all have to be turned on manually one by different power strips that I have around the place. Someday in the future, what I would really love to do is just kind of integrate them all and start using aperture equipment. I love their stuff. I have a few pieces, and I think that they make brilliant equipment, lighting equipment. So that's on my list of things to upgrade. As far as sound goes, I'm very happy with these Rode NT5 small diaphragm condenser mics. I think that they give a nice presence to the video. It feels kind of live. I wouldn't want to use a lavalier mic, mainly because of that really kind of always in your ear up close sound that they give. I also didn't really want to go with shotgun microphones because I'm in such a small reverberant place. Very likely get phasing issues with the audio. So I went with these small diaphragm condenser mics. Rode, I think, makes a really good, they strike a really good balance between cost and performance. I've been very, very happy with them. This one back here is an old Samson CO2 that gets some pretty good reviews, although I think it's a little bit muddy sounding. Maybe in the future I might replace this one with another NT5. But as far as sound goes, one thing that I would do in the future, I hope, is some sound treatment, especially on the ceiling up here, because we definitely get a lot of reflective sound off of that. Maybe in the future too, I might put like a bit of a sound blanket in the back here to just kind of deaden that sound a little bit. Overall, that's it. It's a very functional, low-cost, compact kitchen studio. So thank you for watching. That's it for this impromptu kitchen studio tour. I hope it's been interesting. I hope it's been helpful. If you have any questions about any of the equipment or the things that we shoot here or any of the techniques, please feel free to ask and let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd be more than happy to help with answering questions or just talking about cooking and video and all of this kind of fun stuff. I really love doing this. And if you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'll be putting out as many videos as I can about video production, travel, food, cameras. I love all of this stuff. I love talking about it. I love talking with people about it. So I hope to do more, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.